cavemen already built at the house. But first thing more than all, I would have my receipt for my you have to have, every time they move, you have to have a license for them. Like if they move to Vegas, all right, we have to have the Vegas license. They move to New York, we need a New York license. Right.
He became the youngest heavyweight champion in history. He fought legends and dominated. But now, at 59, Mike Tyson breaks his silence with a confession that changes everything. This isn't just about boxing. It's about pride, legacy, and the one man who made Iron Mike question himself. A name most have never heard, but Tyson calls him the toughest of them all. What happened that night, and why reveal it now? The name Mike Tyson is a well-known one in the boxing industry. Following his professional debut in March 1985, Mike Tyson quickly gained popularity for his exceptional strength, speed, and ability to knock out opponents early in fights. In fact, his first 19 fights all ended in knockouts, beating 12 of them in the first round. Tyson's early success and ferocious fighting style led to the nickname Iron Mike, describing his powerful punches and seemingly unstoppable nature in the ring. Not only did his fighting history solidify the nickname, but his future fights gained him even more popularity, leading to him gaining several more nicknames like Kid Dynamite, and later on, the baddest man on the planet. But none was as iconic as Iron Mike. In his famous words, "I was born to do this. I was made for war." He claimed his first belt at the age of 20, making him the youngest boxer ever to win a heavyweight title. He was also the first heavyweight boxer to simultaneously hold the World Boxing Association, WBA, World Boxing Council, WBC, and International Boxing Federation, IBF, titles, as well as the only heavyweight to unify them in succession. The following year, Tyson became the lineal champion when he knocked out Michael Spinks in 91 seconds of the first round. Sadly, in 1990, Tyson lost the undisputed heavyweight championship when he got knocked out by underdog Buster Douglas, making it one of the biggest upsets in boxing history. However, according to Mike Tyson, this wasn't even his toughest opponent ever. I mean, what fight could beat the game that is now being referred to as one of the biggest upsets in boxing history? In the year 1992, he began his brief break from professional boxing. He was away from the ring as a result of his conviction for intimate misconduct. He was sentenced to 6 years in prison, but was released on parole after 3 years. His release in 1995 was signaled by a series of comeback fights. He regained the WBA and WBC titles in 1996 to join Floyd Patterson, Muhammad Ali, Tim Witherspoon, Evander Holyfield, and George Foreman as the only men in boxing history to have regained the heavyweight championship after losing it. However, he was stripped of the WBC title in the same year, and he went on to lose the WBA title to Evander Holyfield by an 11th round stoppage. Their most memorable rematch happened in 1997, where the fight ended with Tyson getting disqualified for biting Holyfield's ears. In 2002, Tyson fought for the World Heavyweight title, but ended up losing by knockout to Lennox Lewis. His fight in November 2024 wasn't any different. He lost his bout against Jake Paul via unanimous decision. This match turned out to be the biggest boxing gate in U.S. history outside of Las Vegas. Amidst his many wins and few losses, however, fans and the media have always questioned who his biggest opponent ever was. Who was it that made Iron Mike Tyson panic in the ring? Now at 59, he has revealed the toughest boxer he ever faced, and it's not who everyone expected it to be. But to understand this, let's first dive into Tyson's early career. Michael Gerard Tyson was born in Fort Greene, Brooklyn, New York City, on June 30th, 1966. Unlike what most people might believe, Tyson's life has not always been a bed of roses from the start. Growing up, he had an older brother named Rodney and an older sister named Denise, who died of a heart attack later on at age 24. Tyson's mother was described as a promiscuous woman, and his biological father is listed as Purcell Tyson, a humble cab driver from Jamaica. But that wasn't who Tyson grew up to know as his father. The man Tyson had known as his father was a pimp named Jimmy Kirkpatrick from Greertown, North Carolina, where Jimmy used to be one of the neighborhood's top baseball players. So it seems Tyson already had a background in sports. Jimmy Kirkpatrick had left his family and moved to Brooklyn, where he met Tyson's mother, Lorna Mae Smith Tyson. Kirkpatrick, however, wasn't much of a father figure to Tyson. He frequented pool halls, gambled, and hung out on the streets. "My father was just a regular street guy caught up in the street world," Tyson said. Kirkpatrick later abandoned the Tyson family, leaving Tyson's mother to care for the children on her own. The family lived in Bedford-Stuyvesant until they had to move to Brownsville as a result of financial difficulties when Tyson was 10 years old. Throughout his childhood, Tyson lived in and around neighborhoods with a high rate of crime. According to an interview in Details, his first fight was with a bigger youth who had pulled the head off one of Tyson's pigeons. It therefore wasn't surprising that Tyson was repeatedly caught committing petty crimes and fighting those who ridiculed his high-pitched voice and lisp. By the age of 13, he had been arrested an unimaginable 38 times. Eventually, he ended up at the Tryon School for Boys in Johnstown, New York. It is quite amazing to think that if Tyson had not met Bobby Stewart, Iron Mike might not have ever been born. As a teenager, at the Tryon School for Boys, he crossed paths with Bobby Stewart, a former fighter turned juvenile detention counselor, and despite. For all of Mike's problems, the boxer realized he had great potential. Stewart then introduced Tyson to Cus D'Amato, and before long, the legendary trainer was putting the teenager through his paces. Tyson's mother later died when he was 16, leaving him in the care of D'Amato, who would become his legal guardian. On the surface, it didn't seem like much because he hardly ever knew her, but this sad event crushed the legendary fighter emotionally. In his words, "I never saw my mother happy with me and proud of me for doing something. She only knew me as being a wild kid running the streets, coming home with new clothes that she knew I didn't pay for. I never got a chance to talk to her or know about her. Professionally, it has no effect, but it's crushing emotionally and personally." With the proper tutelage, Tyson turned into an unstoppable force. While he had plenty of punching power, D'Amato taught him the defensive skills necessary to survive a profession. Kevin Rooney also trained Tyson, and he was occasionally assisted by Teddy Atlas, although Atlas was dismissed by D'Amato when Tyson was 15. Rooney eventually took over all training duties for the young fighter. Tyson dropped out of school as a junior and turned pro at age 18. A little over 2 years later, he claimed the heavyweight title. During his time as an amateur, Tyson won gold medals at the 1981 and 1982 Junior Olympic Games, defeating Joe Cortez in 1981 and beating Kelton Brown in 1982. He also won the gold medal at the National Golden Gloves held in New York in 1984. After his professional debut, he defeated Hector Mercedes in the first round by a total knockdown, and at the end of his first year as a professional, he had a total of 15 bouts. The boxing legend won 26 of his first 28 fights by knockdown or total knockdown, and 16 of those came in the first round. The quality of his opponents gradually increased to journeyman fighters and borderline contenders like James Tillis, David Jacko, Jesse Ferguson, Mitch Green, and Marvis Frazier, and his winning streak began to attract media attention. Tyson was billed as the next great heavyweight champion. Later on, in 1985, D'Amato died, relatively early into Tyson's professional career, and some speculate that his death was the catalyst for many of the troubles Tyson was to experience as his life and career progressed. In July, after recording 6 more knockout victories, Tyson fought former world title challenger Marvis Frazier in Glens Falls, New York, and won easily. The fight was over almost as soon as it started, with Tyson charging at Frazier at the opening bell and hitting him with 2 consecutive uppercuts, the second of which knocked Frazier unconscious 30 seconds into the fight. He went on to become the first heavyweight to own all 3 major belts, WBA, WBC, and IBF, at the same time. By 1990, however, Tyson seemed to have lost direction, and his personal life was in disarray amidst reports of less vigorous training before the Buster Douglas match. Perhaps this was why he lost the undisputed championship to Douglas in Tokyo. At first, Tyson managed to catch Douglas with an uppercut in the 8th round and knocked him to the floor, but Douglas recovered sufficiently to hand Tyson a heavy beating in the subsequent 2 rounds. After the fight, the Tyson camp would complain that the count was slow and that Douglas had taken longer than 10 seconds to get back on his feet. Just 35 seconds into the 10th round, Douglas unleashed a brutal uppercut, followed by a 4-punch combination of hooks that knocked Tyson down for the first time in his career. He was counted out by the referee. The knockout victory by Douglas over Tyson, the previously undefeated baddest man on the planet, and arguably the most feared boxer in professional boxing at that time, has been described as one of the most shocking upsets in modern sports history. Despite the shocking loss, however, Tyson has said that losing to Douglas was the greatest moment of his career. "I needed that fight to make me a better person and fighter. I have a broader perspective of myself and boxing." But was that truly what happened? Or was he just trying to save face? After the loss, Tyson was soon convicted of an intimate misconduct charge, and upon his release on parole, he made a few comebacks. Tyson's first comeback fight was marketed as "He's Back" and grossed more than $96 million worldwide, including a United States record $63 million for PPV television. Iron Mike has 50 wins from 59 professional boxing bouts in a career spanning 40 years, of which 44 were from knockouts. During this period, he faced a lot of notable names like Buster Douglas, Holyfield, and Lennox Lewis. Who could it be that made the legendary Mike Tyson panic during a fight? Evander Holyfield, the man who beat him twice and took a bite for it. Tyson and Holyfield fought in 1997. The highly anticipated rematch was dubbed The Sound and the Fury, and it was held at the Las Vegas MGM Grand Garden Arena, the same venue as the previous bout. Soon to become one of the most controversial events in modern sports, the fight was stopped at the end of the 3rd round, with Tyson being disqualified for biting Holyfield on both ears. The first time Tyson bit him, the match was temporarily stopped, and the referee, Mills Lane, deducted 2 points from Tyson, and the fight resumed. However, after the match resumed, Tyson bit him again, resulting in his disqualification, and Holyfield won the match. The first incident resulted in an injury to Holyfield's right ear, with a portion later discovered on the ring floor. Tyson later stated that his actions were retaliation for Holyfield repeatedly headbutting him without penalty. In the confusion that followed the ending of the bout and announcement of the decision, a near riot occurred in the arena, and several people were injured. Tyson Holyfield II was the first heavyweight title fight in over 50 years to end in a disqualification. As a fallout from the incident, $3 million was immediately withheld from Tyson's $30 million purse by the Nevada State Boxing Commission, the most it could legally hold back at the time. 2 days after the fight, Tyson issued a statement, apologizing to Holyfield for his actions and asking not to be banned for life over the incident. Tyson was roundly condemned in the news media, but was not without defenders. Novelist and commentator Catherine Dunn wrote a column that criticized Holyfield's sportsmanship in the controversial bout and charged the news media with being biased against Tyson. Mike Tyson also had the opportunity to fight for a heavyweight championship against Lennox Lewis in 2002. Lennox Lewis held the WBC, IBF, IBO, and lineal titles at the time, and 2 years prior to the bout, Tyson had made several inflammatory remarks to Lewis in an interview after his fight with Lou Savarese, another fighter. Tyson unleashed a chilling post-fight threat, one that left the sports world stunned. On January 22, 2002, the two boxers and their entourages were involved in a brawl at a New York press conference to publicize the planned event. And a few weeks later, the Nevada State Athletic Commission refused to grant Tyson a license for the fight, and the promoters had to make alternative arrangements. After multiple states balked at granting Tyson a license, the fight eventually occurred on June 8th at the Pyramid Arena in Memphis, Tennessee. Lewis dominated the fight and knocked out Tyson with a right hand in the 8th round. It was quite an embarrassing defeat, but Tyson was respectful after the fight and praised Lewis for his victory. This fight was the highest-grossing event in pay-per-view history at that time, generating $106.9 million from 1.95 million buys in the US. When asked the toughest boxer he faced, wouldn't one of these be the obvious answer? So why did Tyson say, none of them? The real toughest opponent. Mike Tyson has named the toughest opponent he has ever faced, a move that came out of nowhere and wasn't one of his many defeats. The former heavyweight champion ignored Lennox Lewis, Buster Douglas, and Evander Holyfield, 3 of the 5 men, to stop him dead in his tracks, and he named a foe he stopped in 2 minutes of the 6th round as his most complex challenge despite landing many unanswered shots. It seems that by toughest opponent, the baddest man on the planet means the man who could take the most punishment. According to him, Pinklon Thomas, he was my toughest opponent, Tyson told History Bites. I never thought it was him, but then 2 years ago, I watched a tape of him. A friend of mine told me to watch it. I hit him with 17 punches flat on his face. He went down, but it was 17 punches, flat on the face. All of them were as hard as can be, and the last one he passed out. I saw it a couple of days ago, and I thought, God, that was my toughest fight. He took 17 punches on the chin. The fact that Thomas got laid out and demolished doesn't seem to come into Mike's equation. Perhaps he named him because he took the most absurd punishment and kept standing. It would seem that the youngest ever top division ruler possibly doesn't want to give credit to those who actually defeated him. Pinklon Thomas went on to win the IBO title in 1992 after putting together 12 straight victories, and then ended his boxing career in 1993. Wait, what about Razor Ruddock? Tyson at one time also called Donovan Razor Ruddock one of his toughest fights. In September 2024, Mike Tyson sat down with Cameron and Metz during an interview on their Come and Talk to Me podcast to discuss his upcoming opponent and also delve into the fascinating life that Iron Mike has lived so far. Amidst the conversation, Tyson was asked by Cameron, "What's one of the toughest fights you had?" Interestingly, Mike Tyson's toughest opponent wasn't any of the boxers he had lost against. Razor Ruddock, this guy from Jamaica. Ruddock went the distance, twice, and he hit like a truck. "He's pretty tough," Tyson replied, after thinking for a moment. First Pinklon Thomas, now Razor Ruddock? Did Tyson change his mind over time? Or is he revealing different truths depending on the moment? That's not all. Tyson has also said Evander Holyfield was the best he ever faced. The former heavyweight champion shared his thoughts during a feature with The Ring magazine. Among all the fighters Tyson faced, he said, Holyfield stands out. In The Ring magazine's Best I Ever Faced feature, Tyson praised Holyfield's all-around skills, and he explained why he was the best he faced. He stated, "Great champion, chin, heart, determination, work ethic, demeanor." People seem to be genuinely surprised when I tell them, Holyfield was my toughest opponent, not to be confused with my toughest fight, which was Ray Mercer. But when you really dive into why that is, it actually makes a lot of sense. Holyfield, like me, has an extensive amateur pedigree that has served him well throughout his professional career. He started boxing at 8 years old and was an Olympic bronze medalist in 1984. Before he moved up to the heavyweight division, he was a man who cleared out the cruiserweight division to become the undisputed champion and arguably the best ever in that weight class. That's a lot of experience, and it's safe to say that by the time we met for the undisputed heavyweight championship in 1999, he had seen it all. When you combine Evander's amateur and professional experience, you would be hard-pressed not to see the kind of success he's had in the ring. I may tease him a bit in our 2 fights. He knows I won both fights, even though he won't admit it. But in all seriousness, he's the only man that has gone 24 rounds with me. He's a great champion who has a good chin and a big heart. He showed so much determination and had a great work ethic. I also liked his demeanor. Holyfield was a force to be reckoned with. He was a 2-weight undisputed champion, ruling both the cruiserweight and heavyweight divisions. Tyson and Holyfield first met in the ring in November 1996. Tyson was the WBA champion, but Holyfield won by stoppage in the 11th round. Their rematch in June 1997 ended in controversy when Tyson was disqualified. Despite their intense rivalry, Tyson's respect for Holyfield's skills is clear. His words show that sometimes your toughest opponent can also be the one you admire most. Is there a difference between toughest and best? And did Tyson ever truly forgive himself for what happened in that ring? The one opponent he couldn't beat: himself. For all of Mike Tyson's talent, though, the boxer would eventually falter. While he had numerous issues outside of the ring, he also lost to Buster Douglas, Evander Holyfield, Lennox Lewis, Danny Williams, and Kevin McBride before calling it a career. None of those men, however, were Iron Mike's toughest opponent. During a 2014 Reddit AMA, a user asked the former heavyweight champ about the identity of the hardest opponent he faced inside and outside of the boxing ring. Tyson simply responded, "Me, Mike Tyson." While that might not sound out of character for the famously outlandish boxer, the answer does make sense. From a pure boxing perspective, Tyson didn't have much to fear in the ring. For all his confidence, though, Iron Mike was full of doubt and desperation. While those emotions helped fuel his rise to fame, they eventually led to his dramatic fall from grace. Through his fights, his childhood, and his brief time spent in prison, was the real war always internal? Or could he be hiding the truth? Some fans believe Tyson downplays Holyfield and Lewis to avoid giving them credit, while others think he's trolling or protecting his ego. Could Mike Tyson be rewriting history? Or just being brutally honest in a way only he can? Maybe toughness isn't about winning. Maybe it's about surviving. At 59, Mike Tyson didn't name the man who beat him. He named the man who stood up to him. What do you think of Mike Tyson's toughest opponent? Let us know in the comment. If you enjoyed this video, check out our channel for more interesting videos. Please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.